Water Commission for October 16th. Marion, could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Doba,
Here.
Commissioner Beals, Commissioner Paul,
Here.
Commissioner Watzak, here,
Here.
Commissioner Nauman,
Here.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Vane. Okay, we got a quorum.
Great, thank you. We do have a quorum. I'm hearing a little feedback. Is everybody hearing this feedback in the system? I wonder where that's coming from.
I do hear it online, Ron. This is Erin Young.
I'm sorry, Aaron. You're hearing it too?
I do hear it. Yes.
All right, well, let's try this. Do we hear it now? We still hear it, so it wasn't my laptop. Well, let's go ahead and get started. The next item we have on the agenda is public participation, where anybody from the public can address the commission on an item that's not on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission, please state your name and address for the record. The open meeting law prohibits us from discussing or taking action on an item that's not listed on the agenda. Commission members may respond to criticism made by those addressing the commission, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that the matter be placed on a future agenda. And please limit public comments to 3 minutes reading time. Do we have anybody here for public participation? I am not seeing anyone, so we will move along to the approval of the minutes from the September 18th, 2025 meeting. They were attached to the agendas that went out previously. I hope you've all had an opportunity to take a look at them. Give us a couple of minutes if you'd like to look at them, and would ask for a motion. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Kind of. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved for the September 18th, 2025 meeting. Moving on to new business, we've got a couple of items on the agenda for this afternoon. The first item is an update on the strategic plan for the stormwater utility cost of service. And I think, Ed, are you gonna move on with that one?
Oh, I'll be giving a portion of this.
Okay,
Yep. So good afternoon, Commission. It's been a while since I've been up here. Ed Shank, I'm the Stormwater Section Director here at City of Flagstaff. Yes, this is kind of a dry run, if you will, of our November 4th presentation to City Council. So if you have any discussion items on this or questions, we'll take them and implement them in the council discussion. This is a midterm review of two different items in the stormwater utility, both halfway through the 5-year progress from 2023, obviously, to 2028. One being the stormwater utility rate adjustment that was passed in early 2023, and the other being the stormwater strategic plan 2028 that was also passed later in the year. The first half of this discussion is going to be led by our consultant, Water Resources Economics. I believe we have Sanjay on board. Yep. And he's going to walk you through the first. That'll be the cost of service study for the rate adjustment. And then we'll take questions and comments for that first half. And then let Sanjay go out and enjoy the California sun. And we'll move on with the stormwater strategic plan updates, which I will provide. So yeah, quick overview. The stormwater utility is a standalone utility created in 2003 to provide enhanced level of service to the community. We are, when I say enhanced, I'd say we're a little bit unique, not totally unique, but definitely different than most for a municipal stormwater. Most stormwater is working with water quantity and water quality, dealing with urbanization. We do that, obviously, but we also go above and beyond that. So we do regional flood control. One of the reasons for the creation of this utility for the Rio Flag flood control project with the Army Corps of Engineers. Also more recently at the post-wildfire flooding and the regional flood control related to that. We also operate a robust early alert warning network over 30 gauges now, making it one of the largest networks in Arizona and definitely the largest by city size. Disaster response, and then also we run our own capital improvement projects. As I mentioned, the first half of this presentation is being run by Water Resource Economics. Second half, we'll take those questions. Second half, I will run. And as I mentioned, both items are midterm updates. So we'll just jump right into it. Sanjay,
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed. Commissioner, staff, and public. It's my pleasure to be here virtually to present the cost of service analysis. So just a bit of background. We conducted the prior rate study in 2023. And we were engaged to review the financial plan in 2025. As just a background, in 2023, when we looked at this, we developed rates for April 2023 to January 2028, and we proposed a 12% increase each year to fund the operational capital needs. So what our ask or what was requested by City Council was to review the financial plan or the status of the stormwater utility and just to see where we are. So we wanted to compare what we projected out, what was actual, what happened, and just to see where we are from a financial health perspective, what's the position of this enterprise. So there's three main changes that have occurred. The first is there is changes in the number of ERUs, that's equivalent residential units, and that's what we charge residents and commercial based on ERUs, and that has changed, and I'll talk a little bit more about what has changed there. There's some minor changes in the non-capital expense, but there are some minor, but I just wanted to mention that. But the most significant change is capital expense. That has significantly increased from 26 to 28. So ERUs have changed, they've increased, so that means there's additional revenue. And there's two reasons why. One is there was an audit conducted, and that audit produced more ERUs. And then there was a slight growth also that occurred. So we have a lot more ERUs, 17% over the 3 years, so that's a $4 million increase. There are some minor changes in the non-capital expense. They're pretty minor and stated here in the bullets. But we do want to mention that. But the next slide shows the capital, and that's where we have seen some significant increase in capital expense. The 3-year capital pay-go, that's cash funded, it's higher than the prior study, 32%, and over the 3 years, that's $5.1 million. Some of the significant increase is the Rio de Flag. That's one of the major expense. Now, the city also has received a lot more debt and grant funding to help fund these projects. But there is a lot more rate-funded projects, as mentioned, from 16.2 over the 3 years to 21.3. And this illustrates the difference. So the top section of this table shows the prior study projections. And as you can see, it was all rate funded, 2.2 and 26, 6.7, $7 million totaling 16, almost $16.2 million. And then the current projections, and as you can see, we have some debt funded, we have some grant funded, but we do also have a lot more CIP that's being funded by cash, rate funded, shown right over here. So based on that information, we compared the two and we looked at the prior study revenues. So as mentioned, revenues are higher because we have more ERUs. So that's a positive. But we have more expense. That's a negative. But the consequences is that we're pretty much on target. They sort of neutered each other out. So that's a good thing. You're still on track. And there's a minor change in the ending balances or differences that we see right over here, $435,000. So just to summarize, the changes is that we have more revenue, slight change in operating, slight decrease in debt service, but a lot more capital expense. So the net impact is $400,000. So overall, the city is in a good position. It's always good to do these studies, especially with these magnitude of change here. You're still on the course, so that's really good. We developed a technical memo that summarized in detail all the information, and if you have questions about that, we can answer that. And that concludes my presentation.
Well, thank you, Sanjay. Ed, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. So Water Resources Economics, if I didn't mention it before, was the same firm that we retained for that 2023 rate study. Took over a year to get that rate study completed and then through council, through public comment. And it's been a pleasure working with them. So yeah, no additional comments from staff.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission? Rob?
Thank you, Ron. I may not have been able to digest the slides quickly enough, so maybe the answer was there, but I'm wondering, with the increase in capital costs, was that due primarily to escalation of costs of existing projects or previously defined projects, or an actual increase in the number of projects or definition of new projects?
I would say it's a little bit of both, but mostly it is construction inflation. So we've seen about a 300% increase in construction costs from pre-COVID to today, and that hasn't seemed to slow down. So it was going up at the time of the study, and it's continuing to go up.
Can you name any of the new projects that were added?
Mead Lane would be one that we're going to complete this year. So that is a project in Coconino Estates that has seen repetitive flooding.
So does that mean you're going to increase the pipe size on Mead Lane going over to the Rio?
Correct, yeah. So right now it has capacity for about 5 CFS, and we hope to improve that to, I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I think it's close to 200.
Any more questions? Ed, just a question I have with regards to our fees for the stormwater utility. Do we have an increase programmed into those fees on an annual basis or not?
Can you repeat the question?
There are fees that we pay for stormwater.
Mhm.
Is there an annual increase programmed in there?
Correct. So with that 2023 rate adjustment, it's 12% per year up till January 2028. So at January 2028, that is the conclusion of the rate adjustment. And at that point, either council will make the decision to continue the rate as it is, do a new rate study, or they could do a rate decrease if they want. It would be determined by the level of service and what their decision is.
Okay, are we anticipating we're not anticipating any increase in the next year or so then?
Other than what's already scheduled,
But we do have an increase scheduled.
it is an annual increase until January 2028 at 12%. Yep,
12% per year?
correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Did you have another question, Rob?
Yeah, just briefly, I know this presentation isn't about the Rio project, but I noticed the name of the Rio project on the slides. We don't, at least I don't see any visible activity on that. Can you give the 30-second update on the Rio project?
I think Christine Cameron would probably be the best source information on the Rio project. It is still alive. It's obviously been delayed several times. We are still working through agreements between the Army Corps, BNSF, and the city. So the city portion is secured. We do have our 35% match for the project. But at this time, it's still moving slowly. I'm not sure exactly when ground will break.
So is that affecting the analysis that went into this study by WRE about capital costs?
The current capital costs are mostly for Rio to Flag is mostly debt driven. So as Sanjay had shown, our debt service costs have decreased slightly. So at 1.2 million over this period, the 3-year period. The elephant in the room is still, there may be and there probably will be additional costs to the Rio project that the city will incur. Now, whether that's borne by the Stormwater Utility Fund or whether that's borne by the general fund or another avenue like state funding, I can't answer that at this time.
Okay, thank you.
John?
While you're here, Ed, I thought I'd just ask you, are we doing any, or are we connected, or have we retained for an engineering firm to evaluate the watersheds that have burned and what the condition is and how that will affect predictions in the future?
Great question, and a question I'll gladly take in the second half of the presentation.
Any more questions? Okay, Ed.
All right, and thank you, Sanjay, for
Thank
making
you.
the time.
I'm sorry?
Are you all sharing the slides or did you already?
If they're not already shared,
Okay.
they will be. It's also going to, these will be the November 4th slides to City Council. So this will be in the staff summary pretty soon. Kind of wait until we're done here, make any adjustments we need to make, and then that will be in the publicly available agenda minutes for City Council. Yep. Okay, so we're good. I can switch, not really switch topics. I'd say
Right.
same topic, but I'll switch themes a little bit. So I'll give the midterm progress report for the strategic plan. Again, I'm kind of reiterate a little bit. Stormwater did become a utility in 2003 under the Community Development Division. Since that time, the utility has changed quite a bit and grown substantially in terms of level of service and responsibilities. In 2020, the acting water services director at the time approves the development of a stormwater strategic plan that is separate from the water services division strategic plan. And the reason for this is to provide better definition, guidance, and mission to the stormwater utility. So we are a utility that's nested within the water services utility, but we are separate. This draft plan was reviewed and revised in late 2021 after the post-fire floods and then adopted by City Council in 2023 as a 5-year plan. Again, the following slides are going to provide a review of that strategic plan, including a midterm progress report. You do have a physical copy of that plan on your desk. You can also get it online. So everything we have, we post online. So this is the link to that same strategic plan on the website. So again, strategic foundation for this plan, you can read through that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. There's a number of mission and behavioral values and then business values. And then it also kind of goes into the history of the stormwater utility. So starting in 2003 as a FEMA floodplain administrator, so local administrator for FEMA, development review, construction inspections, some maintenance funding, and water quality in MS4. So there's a rather small list that we started at. And then that grew through time as we took on capital improvement, drainage investigations, regional studies, the early alert warning, regional watershed management, the Rio to Flag flood control project, et cetera. So there's been quite a bit of change through time, and obviously the reason for this plan. The outlook from this plan, or the output from this plan, was 9 strategic objectives. So these are rather large, overarching objectives with individual actions and goals within them. I'm not going to read each one of these separately, but you definitely have them there on that physical plan. What I will provide is an update for the last 2.5 years for each of these 9 objectives. So the first one that we had written out, and this is obviously relevant at the time, well, it still is relevant, but it was relevant at the time because we were just coming out of post-wildfire flooding in the Sunnyside neighborhood. So the first objective is to respond to wildfire flooding risks and events. So since the plan was authored, since it was written, we have completed the series of Schultz Creek post-wildfire capital projects. This is a whole series of improvements, starting on the forest with the County Flood Control District to within the wilderness urban interface, with the Schultz Basins all the way down to the confluence of the Rio Flag, and then beyond that as we worked in Francis Short Pond. So a whole series of projects that completely mitigated the post-wildfire environment for that Pipeline West fire. So that's the western portion of the 2022 pipeline fire. We have also substantially completed most of the Spruce Wash suite of projects. This is a $40 million suite of projects. Depending on how you count it, 10 to 13 different projects. We will have that completed by spring of next year, which will mitigate to the 25-year flood event in Spruce Wash off that 2019 museum fire. We have also assisted the county with our 2023 pre-wildfire study of the Rio de Flags. This is a risk assessment of potential fires in the headwaters of the Rio de Flag. We have also proactively dredged the Rio de Flag in Cheshire. It has not been dredged since the channel was created in the 1970s. So that has occurred this year. We are halfway through a pre-fire risk assessment for the watersheds that drain off Observatory Mesa. These are watersheds that drain into Cheshire, Coconino Estates, Thorpe Park, Mars Hill, as well as down River Springs and other areas. We have began a comprehensive study of the south slope of Mount Eldon to see what drainage issues occur there. We have multiple repetitive flood losses off the south slopes of Mount Eldon. So we're working through that. We're also working through a complete conceptual design for draining at least a portion of what we call Big Fill Lake. This is the Rio Flag backwater area of BNSF over near Continental Country Club, an area with a rather large FEMA floodway designation. Working with BNSF on that one. We've also done other proactive designs, including Shadow Mountain Detention Basin. This is another large basin that's through the design phase. I'm not sure if it'll ever get built, but through the design phase for the south slope of Mount Eldon in the Appalachian neighborhood. And then we've completed a technical memorandum of the difference between the flood control district roles and the stormwater utility roles. So quite a bit's occurred in the last 2.5 years on that wildfire flooding risk venue, if you will. Next objective was clarifying climate change characteristics and overall stormwater challenges. So with this, we do actively work with researchers at NOAA, National Weather Service, NAU, ASU, and others by providing raw data for both precipitation and stream flow through the 30 rain gauges and about 22 stream gauges, providing that data, for example, to NWS for the NOAA Atlas 15 update, which is their rainfall likelihood atlas. We've completed a landscape scale model of rainfall runoff. It's a model called the Mike Shee model. It's a 2-dimensional model. This was completed using a FEMA CTP grant, and we're working towards a new revision of that model with Aaron Young and the Water Resources Group. So tying in the surface water with the groundwater to have a more comprehensive model for climate change and changing water needs. We have installed new alert gauges, so new early warning gauges on Freeland Prairie Road and the Rio de Flag and Fort Valley. So these are areas up gradient of the cities, outside city limits, but that drain to the city. And then we have published numerous scientific papers and reports on the local hydrology and climate. Third objective was maximizing or optimizing the stormwater system maintenance. So we have an annual maintenance report. This is available online, and we are expanding that to include underground infrastructure. It started as an open channel and watershed annual report. Now it's including the pipes, culverts, and other asset management assets that this stormwater section has. We've updated all of our stormwater maintenance SOPs and EPGs. These are our guiding documents for our maintenance operators. We've updated the regional detention basin inspection forms. We have a number of regional basins now in the last 5 years. And then we've completed inspection and maintenance on all the city-owned rain gardens. So these are LID facilities, low impact development. And we're streamlining our resident complaint response through the use of CMMS. That's a computerized maintenance and monitoring system. So CityWorks, which is now Trimble Unity, is our central location for that. Fourth objective is clarifying service levels and enhance customer service. So we have provided engineering assessments to neighborhoods impacted by repetitive flooding. Mostly this will be Sunnyside and Coconino Estates, the post-wildfire flooding, but it's also other areas. So we do actually reach out and help residents if they have repetitive flooding or potential for it. We also maintain a series of 4 flood alert sirens in the Sunnyside neighborhood, maintain and enhance that early warning network, one of the largest in Arizona, as I mentioned. And we continue to inform the multi-jurisdictional, multi-hazard plan that's housed in the county. The 5th is increased support for floodproofing of individual structures. So we have worked with the Sustainability Division to provide 19 floodproofing grants to individuals and businesses. These are small micro grants to help them with floodproofing either their structure or their property. And we do maintain a seasonal sandbag station located at Thorpe Park. The 6th objective was enhancing CIP process and update the CIP priorities. So we've done that through a number of different things. We've looked at the risk in areas, so the regional Mike Shee model, the original one that we completed through the FEMA grant, and the one that we're working with Aaron, the Observatory Mesa pre-wildfire risk assessment, same thing for Mount Eldon South Slope flood study, updates to both Schultz Creek and Spruce Wash models and hydrology. So these are the hydrology and hydraulic models for those burn area or the watersheds below the burn area and the hydrology related. As I mentioned, the City Works database created for drainage investigations. And then we did adopt this strategic plan. So this is actually one way of enhancing our CIP process and understanding our priorities is the plan that we're walking through right now. Stormwater has reviewed the RDF project, the Rio Flag project, and is moving forward with one lateral CIP related to a larger flood project. So this is a project we hope to complete this year in Santa Fe Avenue. It's just actually outside City Hall here that will in the future tie in to the larger Rio Flag project. And then spot improvements that were priorly managed by our capital program are now managed with our internal stormwater project managers. 7th objective was enhancing development review process and developer support. So this is the core of what we do in stormwater. This is where we grew out of, if you will, pre-2003. So with that, Doug Slover has been an amazing asset. He continues to really rock it in terms of development review. And we've continued to update our standards. So that includes an update this year of our stormwater management drainage design manual that's used by our development community. Last year, we updated our Chapter 12 of City Code. This is the floodplain management section of the City Code with help from ADWR, so Arizona Department of Water Resources, and FEMA. And then also last year, we updated the Stormwater Credit Manual that provides credits for certain activities for your utility rates. Objective 8 was an improved collaboration and communications. So accomplishments in the last 2.5 years. We do provide partial funding for a new, well, not so new anymore, been 2 years, Water Services full-time communications specialist. We do provide ongoing flood updates to Water Commission and City Council. So these are usually routinely in spring and fall. Ongoing community flood awareness communications through both our internal communications group at the Water Services as well as through the greater city PIO. Flood insurance workshops, including bringing in external vendors that have quite a bit of experience with both private and public flood insurance and the workarounds on some of the issues that we're seeing in the insurance agency. We've also done meet in the streets, community meetings for post-wildfire impacted neighborhoods. I think we've done like 20 of those in the last handful of years. And then presentations to regional and national associations to collaborate on emerging flood threats. And then the last one is addressing stormwater section human resources needs. In the last 2.5 years, we have increased our operations group by 2.5 full-time equivalents. So now we have 5 full-time equivalents in the stormwater maintenance group, 1 supervisor and 4 operators. And then we are still working on staffing needs for project managers and engineers. So I ran through that extremely fast because I didn't want to bore you, but if you have any questions or if there's anything you want clarification on, please let me know.
Questions from the commission? John?
The question about the floodplain designation. One of our past commissioners had knew a fair amount about it, and he said that that could be updated fairly rapidly. What's the reality at the moment?
It depends. Well, the reality is it depends what floodplain you're talking about. So this is a fun one we're dealing with the regional plan 2045 right now with Dector. So she asked me to define floodplain. And then you read the regional plan, and there's about 7 different definitions of floodplain depending on the context. So if you're talking about a map floodplain, you can be talking about any number of things. You can be talking about a FEMA floodplain, which is a FEMA special flood hazard area. You can be talking about administrative floodplain, which is something administered by the city, also mapped. Or you can be talking about the rural floodplain, which is natural resource overlay, also mapped. So I assume you're talking about the special flood hazard area?
The one FEMA uses to set rates.
Yes. In geologic terms, you can get it done very quickly. So to give you an example, and I'm not trying to be too glib, but to give you an example, there's a developer that's going through what we call letter of map revision, so LOMAR, which is how you remap a floodplain. They've been working on that for 4 years, and it still hasn't been accepted by the FEMA contracted reviewer.
One of the reasons I asked that question about evaluating the burn scars above for the museum fire and the pipeline fire, the better the condition, the less risk of flood or catastrophic flood. And with the new additions of the detention basins, which are almost complete from what I can tell, that should have some effect on the floodplain, which is for the FEMA, the insurance you buy from the government, they rely on FEMA to designate what level of floodplain you're in. And so if the floodplain level is less hazardous, then people would be able to get cheaper flood insurance, perhaps?
3 years ago, yes. So we're going down a rabbit hole here, and I'm happy to provide this if you want. But so what happened about 3 years ago is what we call risk 2.0. And it's a different actuary number for the insurance agency. And by insurance agency, I mean FEMA. So the Congressional Budget Office did a review or audit, if you will, the National Flood Insurance Policy, so what FEMA provides, and found that there were, I believe, $2 to $3 billion in the red. So the designation by OPM, so Office of Personnel Management, and the GAO, so Government Accountability Office, was to tell FEMA that you need to get this solvent. So their way of getting it solvent was to revise their actuary rates for floodplains. So risk 2.0 kind of took it out of this very analog table format of if you're in a floodplain, you pay X. If you're in a flood way, you pay Y. If you're in a 500 year, you pay Z. That's gone out the window. And now it's done by an actuary model. And to be honest, I've been in several conferences. The question always comes up, what's the model? And we don't know. It's a black box. So someone that's on this side of the street might pay $2,000 a year for flood insurance, and someone on the other side of the street might pay $400 per year. And the rationale between those two is never clear. The best that we can do, being the city, is that we can submit an appeal on behalf of a private owner to FEMA. There's a potential they can change it, what that rate might be. Now, in terms of actually mapping the floodplain, it is still rather laborious. I would say for Coconino Estates, for example, since we have provided a number of mitigations, we're able to get the water to the Rio faster. I would say yes, when we get that remapped, it's going to be remapped in everybody's benefit. Spruce Wash is a little bit more complicated because it depends on the FEMA reviewer, and it's not FEMA reviews it first, it's a contracted agency. So if they decide that the hydraulics is fine, which is what we're talking about, that's the basins, that's the culverts, that's the pipes, then we're in a good shape. But if they decide that we need to revise our hydrology, which is the runoff, it could get interesting. So right now we have an administrative floodplain for Spruce Wash, and that is to guide development review in the areas outside of the currently mapped SFHA, so special flood hazard area, because the current special flood hazard area for Sunnyside is very small because it didn't have much runoff. So we're definitely not in a rush to remap Spruce Wash because it's not going to be in anybody's benefit. We are hoping to remap the Coconino Estates, Schultz Creek area because that will be in people's benefit. We had 2 grants in for that with FEMA because FEMA doesn't do it on their own. They require the community to do that work. The first grant was through BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities. That entire program was swept this year, so BRIC no longer exists. So that grant disappeared. The other one was through what we call a CDP. That's Community Technical Partnerships. The NOFO for that was not released this year, so it's still paused.
Thank you for your presentation and the answer. And thank you for defining your acronyms. Um, Follow up to what you said about the changes in Coconino Estates, et cetera, being in people's benefit. That is because the current map that's being used is from when?
So the original map, that's a great question, by the way. The original map for Coconino County was 1983. It has had revisions over the years. Probably the most comprehensive revision for our area, Flagstaff, was 2010.
So nothing to do with the pipeline fire.
Nothing to do with
Interesting.
pipeline fire. So there was, so to give a little more context, there is it's an interesting one. There's a floodplain AH, which I think we only have one in Flagstaff, and so the different numbers or letters have different meanings. A floodplain AH means that you have sheet flow that can go through homes. And the reason for that was the culverts under 180 were known to be undersized for quite some time. There's never been a huge push from the community to fund the replacement of those culverts until we had the fire. So now that we've had those replaced, both on a hydrology and a hydraulic side, so both H's are good, if you want to call it good, for Schultz Creek. So that will be a benefit. We will be able to remove that floodplain AH area from the upper part of Coconino Estates. As I mentioned, Spruce Wash is a little bit more difficult because the hydrology, the numbers on the flow coming in are so high. So luckily, the special flood hazard area over there was pretty small because we didn't have a large hydrology before the fire. So I hope that helps.
Any more questions?
Yeah. So after the fire, people always rush to get their flood insurance, right? And that doesn't become effective for a month. So how do they determine the change if they don't change the flood map since 2010?
The change in risk 2.0. That goes back to that whole black box. I don't know how they determine the rates anymore. It used to be very formulaic. You would type it in. You would say your base elevation for your finished floor is whatever it might be. Let's say 7,015, above sea level, and the base flood elevation was 7,014. Well, you've got a foot of freeboard, so you do this calc and your rate's this. We no longer have that information. That's all provided at the DC level.
It's interesting, you have sirens now set up for Sunnyside area? Is that what I heard that right, in case there's a flood event?
Yeah, those sirens are paid for out of DFFM, so Department of Forest and Fire Management. So at the state level, I would want to say in 2022, it was managed by the county. The county provided that over to the city shortly after that. So at the time, it's being funded by Stormwater and maintained by the City Emergency Management Group.
And how are the sirens tripped?
At the moment, we'll probably be changing this shortly as we complete projects manually. So we actually receive those early alert thresholds from the different gauges. They send us both a text and an email. We have a flood director protocol, so we have someone who's on duty during the monsoon season. They'll get those gauge reports. They'll go online. They'll check the gauges in real time, and then they'll call in to the county emergency management division, and they will manually turn on the sirens.
Turnaround time from where you see 2 inches appear in a rain gauge in a short amount of time and the sirens coming on would be?
Oh, you probably can get it done in a few minutes. And again, when you see something up on the mountain, it usually takes, if it's fully saturated, it takes half an hour to get to the city. If it's not fully saturated, you're talking 45 minutes to an hour before it gets to the city.
what's your comment on the level of hazard? Say you had a large event on the rain gauges that flow into the Rio de Flag on the west side, like say a catastrophic event of 4 inches in an hour or something. How would the residents know what just happened?
So if we were to get 4 inches an hour somewhere that we're not actively managing as a flood director protocol, which are the areas that have post wildfire impacts, most likely you're going to get that through the National Weather Service first because they have their radar, and the radar is going to give them a pretty, that's that purple you see sometimes. So when they see that purple or white, they're going to put out their own flash flood warning at that point, or they also have a few above flash flood warning, which we learned in Texas, unfortunately. The county can also send out rave alerts, which is the county version. If usually what they'll do, if that case, when it's not in a flood director protocol, they're going to get a call from the weather service saying this is a very severe event. So you can get it on both sides, weather service, and then also the county would probably send out their rave.
I guess encouraging residents to have the county warning system on their phones and computer would be wise.
We always recommend it. For the longest time, I haven't seen it as much anymore, but all city vehicles at one time had the Coconino emergency notification bumper sticker on them.
Haley, did you have a question?
I was just curious with the storms, how everything held up, if there was anything to report on the current storms.
These were great storms for us, not so much for Tempe or Miami or Globe. But for up here, it was pretty gentle, good amount of water. It was great to see some of the ponds and detention basins fill. There were some minor flooding areas. These were areas that have been known for a long time that are flat and don't really have quick drainage just because there's nowhere for the water to move quickly. So this is localized flooding. It's not coming off of a stream or coming off the forest. It's just the amount of water you get over a couple of days. And we're working on mitigating those as best we can.
Just some anecdotal information. My well went dry about, I don't know, 2 months ago. My local from the Rio de Flag perched aquifer, and now there's water actually bubbling out of the top of my well. So the water tables come way, way up. So
You have an artesian spring? Ed, I have just two quick questions. How many regional detention basins do we normally inspect?
Well, normally we've just been building them, so this is kind of new for us as a
Okay.
city. So I believe, and I'm going off memory here, we have 6.
6?
Yeah.
And another question is, when a developer is required to install detention basins as a part of their project, when they're done, who's responsible for maintaining those basins?
Unless there's a development agreement transferring that ownership to the city, it would be the responsibility of the landowner. So we have about 700 private detention basins and LID facilities that are required to be maintained by the owner.
And that could fall to an HOA?
It could, and many times does. So it'll fall to HOA if it's in a subdivision usually. If it's in a commercial property, it's obviously the commercial property owner, not the leasee usually, but yes, we do, it's usually the HOA.
Do we have any more questions? John?
you might have mentioned something about this. You mentioned floodplain designation. With the development we're seeing or about to see along the below downstream from downtown in that area, in the J. Powell kind of area down there. What kind of designations does the Rio floodplain have down there for in terms of construction, what they can and can't do?
So most of that is FEMA floodplain, which you can develop in. You just need to go through the process. So it's a floodplain use permit. It's usually going through the city process through grading, a grading permit and possibly public improvement permit if you're doing a road. Some areas of that are a rural floodplain as well, so that's natural resource overlay. And those areas, you really can't build in it. It's going to be parkland, open space, natural of some type or other. The only way to get around that is if they were to get a text amendment through planning. So planning division is the owner, if you will, of the rural floodplain. Stormwater just administers it.
Is there a real native floodplain all the way down the Rio through town to Pitcher Canyon, or some of that they could develop right over the Rio area?
It's not contiguous. Yeah, there's not contiguous rural floodplain designation.
Very Karen.
You mentioned the Observatory Mesa pre-fire flood assessment or something like that. Is that document available public?
It
To
will
us,
be
or?
once it's done. So we got so this is done by J.E. Fuller. It's the same firm that's done a lot of our post-wildfire and pre-wildfire for the county work. They've completed most of the modeling. Now we're going in kind of fine tuning the modeling, making sure it makes sense, and then having them put in kind of, if you will, a wish list. I don't know if wish list is the right word. Putting in potential mitigation strategies for some of those watersheds. So what makes sense and what doesn't.
Same, is this going to be available on the city
It
website?
is. It is actually available already online at that location there. Usually I just Google something. I don't write this down. It's so much easier just to, or whatever search engine of your choice.
Great. If we don't have any more questions, Ed, thank you so much. Very comprehensive presentation.
Yeah.
Tons of information.
Yeah, well, thank you for the
First absorb.
discussion. It's been fun. And if there's anything you want included or changed for council on November 4th, please email me or Marion, and Marion will just email me, and we'll do some revisions on it. But it doesn't sound like we need that. But if there is, happy to do
Okay.
it. If you figure it out, you'll probably become a millionaire. So yeah, let me know.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. All right, let's move on to the second item under new business. This is the discussion on reclaimed water code or policy updates. And I think, Aaron, you're going to be talking to us about that?
Yeah, hello, Ron. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm at an airport, so just be forewarned that you might hear some background noise. I don't have a formal presentation for the commission today. What we provided in our staff report is a proposed red line to city code, adding some provisions pertaining to reclaimed water. And I just wanted to open up for discussion, feedback from the Water Commission. This is something that we could propose to City Council after a formal recommendation from the Water Commission, but I don't know that we're there yet. Staff, we feel that this is kind of a simple action we can take while we maybe talk about other opportunities for reclaimed water that might be more complicated. We've heard presentations on, let me think, what did we hear on the fifth management plan, for example, or if we want to explore provisions pertaining to amenity lakes. But at least, for watering between 9 and 5, we could adopt code to incorporate no watering between 9 and 5. We didn't hear any objections when we were at the tail end of our golf course tour. We would reach out to those who could not attend the golf course tour, reclaimed water customers, just to make sure folks are supportive of that. So yeah, I just wanted to open it up and maybe Ron, turn it over to you to lead a discussion if you'd like to. But I'm here to listen and take next steps.
Thanks, Aaron. The code as we see it in our package looks very familiar to me. It's been there for quite a while. And first of all, I'll open it up to the commission. If you've had a chance to take a look at it, do you have any items you'd like to bring up? I've got several of them I want to mention, but before I get into those. I'll open it up. If not, I'm sorry? They came with the, oh, of my, the ones I'm recommending, I haven't put. Are you talking about copies of the changes that Aaron has made? Yeah,
Those
I've
of
got all
us online
mine
are
highlighted
not,
in yellow here.
we're not able to hear the conversation. So somebody might need to turn on their mic.
It was about the printing of the agenda. It was about whether or not the packet had been printed. You weren't missing anything. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Karen.
I just found I don't know which page of the actual document it is, but it is page 8 of what we received. It says no person shall, and there's a big red line about with the exception of city parks, schools, golf courses, irrigating without. I found that entire sentence very confusing. I can't even tell what it's trying to tell us to do or not to do. So that's my comment.
What was the number and?
Part 2 for strategy, Roman numeral 2.
And I think I can talk to that. I'll take a stab at it anyway. In our current code for reclaimed or for our current watering code, strategy 2 says no person shall irrigate a golf course with reclaimed water, I think. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to take a stab at that. I'll wait for it to come up. Sorry.
So there was some confusion on that particular paragraph, Karen?
Says no person shall irrigate or wash vehicles except as provided. Even numbered street addresses are restricted to blah, blah, blah. Odd numbered street addresses are restricted to said uses on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, with the exception of city parks, schools, golf courses, irrigating without moisture monitoring. Smart irrigation equipment must abide by the following schedule. I'm not even sure if it didn't make sense to me.
Does that mean if you have moisture monitoring smart irrigation equipment, you do not have to follow that schedule? Aaron?
Correct.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with the days of the week, and it should be like separate from.
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
If you
It's-
have that
yeah.
equipment, you don't have to go by that schedule. Is
I
that
think-
correct,
yeah.
Aaron?
Yes, now I don't have this in front of me to read, so I apologize. The intent was, we heard from golf courses, we heard from city parks that it's almost better to irrigate a little bit every day than longer every other day. And so I was thinking, in order to kind of make sure that people are watering shorter time periods every day, let's say, that if they have, smart water sensors, smart irrigation systems, they're not over applying water if they're using that equipment. So I was trying to incorporate that into code.
I think I understand what you're saying, Aaron. I think that sentence could be cleaned up a little bit, though. I understand the confusion there on that, because it says with the exception of, you've got to abide by these. You cannot irrigate unless you abide by this schedule, with the exception of parks, schools, golf courses, irrigating without moisture monitoring smart irrigation equipment. I had a comment that also regarding that sentence, not just that one, but when we go back to E1A, we're referring to smart irrigation equipment. I would like to see that included in the definitions part. What is smart irrigation equipment? And also, talking about definitions, when we look at number 17 on wasting water, we talk about lined amenity lakes. I'd like to see amenity lakes defined also. under the definitions. When we look at, going down to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 17, B, C, E, E, paragraph 1D, we say no person shall irrigate golf courses with potable water. Is this the only place in the code that we prohibit that? Do you know?
I believe, yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Okay. Any other comments? I would like to, oh, go ahead.
I had a comment, and this is not a red-lined item, but simply one that surprised me when I read through this and wasn't consistent with my past understanding. This is under E1, Strategy, Roman numeral 1, Part A, no person shall. And then it goes on to say, as a standalone sentence, daily hand watering with a hose or watering can is allowed. That surprised me. I thought as a homeowner, you were restricted you could not stand out there with a hose and do hand watering, except on your specified 3 days of the week. Was so I'm free to go out there with my hose anytime I want?
If you're holding it. I think the idea that people aren't gonna stand there holding, holding a hose, irrigating their flowers for too long. And when that code was drafted back in 1998 or so, the idea was to reduce the peak demand on our storage system. Our storage system couldn't keep up with peak demand if people were watering every day, like what was happening. So I think the idea was just that was de minimis and would be allowed, but that's what I wasn't there then. I think Ron was there. He was a baby.
Okay, if you're revisiting this whole code, I would suggest that should be open for discussion. I don't know why. We've heard, people will stand there for a long time with their hose, and it's not much different than having a sprinkler on.
I think some of the rationale, and I don't know if it's all fits that well, but some of the rationale is for new plantings. When people have new trees installed, they're always told you have to water them every day, for a period of weeks or something like that. And I think that may have something to do with why that's in there like that.
Unless it's a willow and that's 3 times a day.
Yeah, for sure. When we had that terrific tour out at Pine Canyon a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking a little bit about lakes out there, and of course they're lakes. They're utilized for storage of water, obviously for irrigation of the golf course. But I would like to throw out for discussion to the commission. There's one thing about amenity lakes that are for scenic purposes only, that aren't being used for operational purposes. And do we really think that we need to utilize water, whether it's reclaimed water or potable water, for the development of future amenity lakes, whatever we want to call them, scenic lakes? I think it warrants some discussion. It's you lose a lot of water either through evaporation, obviously, or if the lakes leak, it's gonna leak out the bottom of the lake. It's a waste of water. And we have some of those in town that are, they're there now. They're obviously going to be grandfathered in probably, but I would like to see us prohibited in the future.
Does that fall into this section?
It's not in here. We don't prohibit it now.
But if we did, is this where it would
It would
be?
fall
Okay.
into this section,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think it's a worthy topic of discussion. Reclaimed water in lakes only for functional purposes is what you're saying. essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aaron, how is this going to be kind of cleaned up a little bit, communicated to the public?
So a final red line would be drafted of the code. Any sections of the code are presented to city council. Any sections that are impacted with red lines. Does that provide
I
enough?
guess what I'm saying, if I was just a member of the public and I was trying to figure out, you know, what's best practice is, do you have a pamphlet we currently have that we provide to the public? Say your enforcement officer is out there and somebody's watering or doing something that's violation of the code. Do you give them a pamphlet, or, you know what I'm saying? Because this isn't particularly understandable for somebody trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, we do provide, we have various materials on hand when our enforcement staff are making their rounds. Anything just from like simple magnets explaining the watering, you know, the every other address or every other day watering and no watering between 9 and 5 except hand watering. So yeah, we have a number of materials to, you know, just provide the real basics. Some of these things are a little bit more complicated, are rare, or if we're in like a water availability strategy level 2 or 3, a water emergency, then we have like a press release if we were to enter a water emergency, just to put those details in simpler terms to understand.
Rob?
I really just wanted to follow up on your suggestion. Ron, would you like to see some draft language?
I would.
Put forward?
I
for
would like to
discussion?
get feedback from the commission on what you think of that, you know, it's, and recognizing, you know, what we have in place now, we have in place probably, but moving forward for the city, do we really need to be putting our water resources, whether it's reclaim or potable, into making lakes?
Yeah, I think you asked for a in addition, I think you asked for a definition of amenity lake.
Yes,
And I think that would go hand in hand with.
right.
And so I would be supportive of trying to develop wording to capture those ideas and giving us a chance to review those words and share it with the potentially the reclaimed water group,
Right.
you know, to get a reaction from the users.
Yeah, I know that the city had a real problem with, what was the name of that lake in Continental?
Lake Elaine.
Lake Elaine, where the liner got old and it just started leaking like a sieve, or maybe it always leaked like a
It's
sieve.
empty right now.
I know it's empty now,
Yeah.
and I don't know where if it's been resolved, but we would definitely want to have it in writing, what we don't, you know, what has to happen, that the owner is, I don't know, how do you even phrase this? I know it was between the golf course and the HOA or something,
Yes.
but we want to have it down in our code so that those kind of things don't end up wasting water like that, and a set formula for what has to happen. I don't know how you even do that, but that was such a nightmare.
I think
that.
it still is a nightmare.
Still is a
out
nightmare.
there.
That as Ron said, that one may be grandfathered, but it occurs to me in this definition of an amenity lake, you might have to have a square footage, you know, minimum or maximum, you know, for, you know, to which this would apply. You know, a large puddle versus a lake.
Lake Elaine has been a leaker since the late 1980s that I'm aware of. There was a period of time that most of the reclaimed water that went to the country club area was going into Lake Elaine versus the golf course. And just because it leaks so badly, and they put a lot of money into that lake, from what I understand, lining it and so forth, and the lining has broken. They're in the process now of trying to get it repaired. But, you know, they may be under some sort of, order to put water back in that lake. And the reason I bring this up is, I mean, I'm glad that's not our problem right now. In a way it is, but, do we really want any more Lake Lanes in the future?
I would-
Absolutely not.
I mean, I think your original point though was even if something is beautifully managed, is there an argument for a purely amenity lake that serves no water management purpose? And I think when you get to the point about the definitions that you were talking about, I mean, if I'm going to build a subdivision and I want to have a fishing pond, is that providing some kind of service, or is it performing a function? Or does, I mean, you need to be very specific that you're talking about performs some sort of water management service for the benefit of the city, or blah, 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 whatever the city wants to write, but you know.
Right. Well, I'm sensing that the commission would be willing to look at some language in the code that, one, defines this type of lake, be it an amenity lake for scenic purposes, and, how it could be, if approved by council, prohibited in the future.
Yes.
Did you,
Yeah,
did
yes.
you get that, Aaron?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
For the next draft, I've heard to clean up some of that language that goes on and on about the irrigation, having smart irrigation systems. So working on that, but then this amenity lake definition and working on that language. And Ron, maybe we could work on that with you if you're willing. That would be probably camera.
Sure. Be happy to. Okay, do we have any other comments on the code that we have in front of us for that have some changes in it for reclaimed water?
Uh,
Rob?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Aaron, I think it's important to update this water conservation code, but in my mind, the even more important one, and I'm sorry I don't have the full reference, but I believe it's C1 1.1 out of the, I'm groping for the right words here, the master plan relating to reclaimed water. And I've brought this up repeatedly, but it's something that needs revision because it's in direct contradiction to what we've come to, you know, what the council agreed to more recently in terms of going to a cost of service pricing for reclaimed water. That C.1.1, which I believe dates from about 2014 or 2015, gives some guidelines for setting the reclaimed water rate, and then says, if in any way this price should discourage the use of reclaimed water, we should lower the rate. And then any cost overruns should be paid out of potable water. And you know, now we have an enterprise fund, a reclaimed water enterprise fund, and so that C.1.1 as it stands is just totally out of date, and could be a real tripping point if someone ever challenges any of these things legally, since that's still on the books. So I hope in conjunction with bringing this up, that this might be a time to revisit C1.1. And I see you nodding, so I think you know what I'm referring to.
I do. You're referring to our water policies, council adopted water policies from 2014, just guidelines and policies, not code. But a number of things really need to be updated in that, including once the regional plan is adopted, we need to match the policies around the regional plan policies, or at least have a discussion about whether the two should match, or how our water policies can support the newly adopted regional plans. So that is kind of a a bigger effort. And so we can talk about, how to, not doing maybe the whole thing at one time. Maybe we break it into pieces, but we do need to update that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I think that's a prime case. You said to take it in small pieces. That C 1.1 is just a paragraph. And, my suggestion would be it needs to be updated to be consistent with this reclaim policy, reclaimed water group. And that doesn't need to wait for the 2045 master plan to be finalized and interpreted. We could move on that one paragraph right away.
Rob, it's my understanding that council hasn't formally adopted a I'll say a policy for how to set reclaimed water rates. I think my understanding is we're exploring a cost of service based model, but I don't know that they formally said like, we're gonna go with that only and not allow flexibility. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But that's my understanding. But we can bring that back and have a discussion.
I recognize the ambiguity on the cost of service pricing, but now you can tell me if I'm wrong. I sense there's no ambiguity at all about the sense of the council that they would not agree to having any reclaimed water cost overruns paid for out of potable water, because that would be in direct violation of the enterprise fund concept. And they're not in favor of lowering reclaimed water prices arbitrarily to encourage consumption.
I'm with you there. So we can propose that. I just stumbled a little bit with the adoption of a cost of service model for reclaimed water because I don't know that. I think they just want to explore that as an option that was supported by the Reclaimed Water Working Group as a recommendation. But glad to bring those up in a PowerPoint. We can go through them one by one and make recommendations.
Yeah, I think C 1.1 could be revised without any mention of cost of service pricing, just to get rid of the part that you and I agreed is no longer the sense of the council. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Do we have any other comments on reclaimed water?
Trying to decide if I want to say anything or not.
I'm looking at John.
I mean, the purpose of including reclaimed water in this document is to conserve reclaimed water, right? The one water concept.
Yes.
And that's looking down the road to the possibility of doing advanced water treatment and DPR as a possible possibility for a future water source for the city down the road. Is there city policy about writing contracts for users of reclaimed water? Say the city, say we get into I brought this up, I think, at the golf course, a severe drought over an extended period of time, and we really needed sources of water for potable water. And could there be a clause in water contracts for reclaimed water that if the city had a potable water emergency and we had the capacity to produce potable using advanced water treatment, that would take precedence over other uses? I mean, I think it would.
Be like an emergency clause
Right.
in the contracts.
Right.
That probably, I don't know, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, it probably wouldn't be something that we'd address in this code modification, but that would be something that would have to be addressed in the individual contracts that we make with the users of the reclaimed water, right?
Yeah, I believe that the two newest examples of contracts do incorporate that language, but we'd want to bring that back formally to you to confirm, unless we have somebody from our legal team online. There was just a agreement the city council adopted to continue releasing reclaimed water, that bow and arrow agreement, where we're required to release a weekly average of 100 gallons a minute from Rio plant and Wildcat plant. That was just extended. And in that agreement, there is language, with the exception of, advanced water purification, that takes priority in the case that we need the water, I think, for advanced water purification, something like that. So I do think that language is starting to be incorporated, as well as in the recent Pine Canyon agreement. So Lee Williams or myself, we can confirm what that language is and share that with you at the next meeting.
That'd be terrific, Aaron. I would think that we have a standard boilerplate contract that's been approved by legal that we use for all these reclaimed water users. Is that correct?
We do, yeah. And I think, like I mentioned, that newer language being brought in, is designed to allow that flexibility in the future with advanced water purification.
And I think that addresses John's concern. Okay.
Thanks, Aaron.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Aaron. Where do we go from here? Are you going to tweak this a little bit and bring it back to the commission again?
Yeah, Ron, if we could work with you, Tamara, or myself, to a place where you think it's ready to bring back to the commission, it's cleaner language. I think we'll have a stronger proposal in November. And if
Okay.
the commission is ready to make a recommendation, we would get legal review, of course, before it goes to city council. In fact, I would like to get legal review before we bring it back to the commission, so we're not looking at something that legal might reject.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. If we have no other comments, Aaron, thank you for the discussion and going over some of these proposed changes, and we'll go from here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. On our agenda, we have no old business. That takes us to informational items to and from chair, commission members, or staff. And let's go around the commission first. John, do you have anything? No? Haley? No? Rob? No? Karen? I think we're gonna make it. I have to leave too, so. Matthew, anything? No. Lee is not here, and I think Councilmember Sweet had to leave early. I see she's not on right now, so if we have nothing else, we will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.